Thank you, Gerry. I also think it's very important to thank AfriForum to organize this event and for allowing us to share an experience that goes beyond a personal incident. It has a huge impact on how South Africa is viewed, and how, especially in Tshwane and Pretoria, the odd 160 diplomatic missions view this country in the current situation. In my case, which is less severe than Mrs. du Toit's case, in my case I was a passenger. I had taken friends out in Johannesburg for a very nice dinner. These are friends, maybe our oldest friends for 30 years. They had come to South Africa on a vacation. One was a very senior member of the management of Daimler-Benz company. The other one is an equally senior lady who participated very actively in German politics. And because we had been out, I had asked my wife to drive. My wife has an alcohol intolerance. She never drinks. So I wanted to be safe on that side. We got very close to our home in Irene, about 1 kilometer away from entering the road to our home. It was about quarter to midnight, when suddenly, out of nowhere, I was in the passenger seat. I see on my left there's a car accelerating and driving up very close. And then suddenly I noticed that this car suddenly switched on blue lights. So the car came like a stealth maneuver, came up, and then switched on blue lights, gestured to stop. I told my wife it's better she stops. She stopped on the right of the road because we were going to turn off right. Couldn't stop on the left because there was this police van. And immediately the 3 occupants jumped out. The one went to the driver's door, the other one went to my door and demanded that I should exit the vehicle. I said I would like to see an identification. I was cautious. I didn't open my window completely. And there was some anger on the side of this police officer, which I then learned was a Mr. Tshwane. And he showed me something. Could be a credit card, could be just a piece of cardboard. It was black, it was illegible. Put it away again and said, I don't have to show you anything, get out. And I said, well, I'm not sure whether maybe you're hijackers. So he said, do I look like a criminal? I said, well, I don't know, maybe you are a criminal, the way you're conducting yourself. So that, of course, irritated him. In the meantime, the other chap on the side of the driver had arranged with my wife that she would be allowed to drive the vehicle slowly to the security gate. We have a security gate system in the Irene village where there's lights and where there's security officers for them to check driver's licenses or whatever they wanted to check. So as my wife started driving, this van suddenly accelerated, screeching tires, stopped, cut in front of our car. My wife had to do an emergency brake. Now all 3 came out. They were very excited. The same chap that had been on my left now had his hand on his gun, demanded that I exit the vehicle. So I'm an older and somewhat senior person. I'm the only member of the European Academy of Sciences in Africa. I have 35 years of being a senior law professor, and I advise many foreign governments. I'm a quality assurance manager for the government of the Emirates, and my last job there was to assess the performance of the Abu Dhabi police. So I'm not a child. So I looked at this man. I said, well, why don't you pull your gun and shoot me? Let's see if you have the courage to shoot me. And that, of course, triggered him completely. He started swearing, I will teach you, you're a white racist. And he started trying to break my window, rattled on my window, tried to open the door. Then he managed to get his hand inside the door. Obviously, he knew cars because he managed to press the right button to release the door lock. Now the door was ripped open. I was ripped out of the car. His 2 colleagues came. They threw me very, very forcefully into the back of their police van. They locked the door behind. And one of them still said, we'll teach you a lesson that you'll never forget. So this is the drama. In the meantime, on the other side of the car, my visitors were insulted as racists, as white shit. My wife was mishandled. The car keys were torn out of the ignition and were then thrown onto the ground. The police van drove off. I noticed from the gear changes they were doing well over 100 kilometers an hour. They were driving through red lights. They wanted to lose my wife, who was trying to follow us. And they did the very, very ugly old apartheid thing. Somebody must have taught them that because they were young, which is to drive at very high speed into very sharp 180-degree turns so that you get thrown around in the back of the van, or to slam on the brakes at a very high speed so that you get thrown to the front. Each time this happened, the two of them would look back to see if I was finally injured. I defended apartheid activists in the 80s. The former chief whip of the ANC in Parliament, Mr. Matole Motshekga, was my assistant for 6 years. So I knew these things. I knew you have to press your legs against the one side of the van and your back against the other side, and with your two hands you have to balance yourself, because otherwise you get seriously injured. When we arrived at Littleton police station, they opened the van, and the very aggressive one who had been dealing with me, he said, "Well, senior citizen, how did you like that one?" I still remained calm. I wasn't going to give them the pleasure of answering or of saying anything wrong. We got into the police station. I was remanded in a corner of the police station together with somebody else, a drunken driver that had been arrested. I was fortunate because probably people had a sense that I am an elder citizen and that I do demand some respect, so I wasn't handcuffed. I know of one other recent case where a very prominent surgeon and doctor here in Centurion spent hours handcuffed to a chair to the point where his wrist was nearly broken. So it went on and on. I think finally, after paying bail at 6 a.m. in the morning, I was released. For a while I was refused water. I was refused access to a toilet. And the saddest part is I realized a terrible level of racist hatred. It was not about enforcing the law. It was not about dealing with a situation that had gotten out of hand. It was us and them. And this is the wider issue. Contrary to many other countries where we have police abuse, we all know about the terrible, tragic abuse in Minnesota and America. Unlike in other countries, there has been no consequence. Nobody's been suspended. Nobody's been investigated. There's no due process. As Advocate Nell just said, the file has suddenly disappeared. The internal investigation unit from the Tshwane Metro Police that did contact me, one Sergeant Lowe, they never came back to me. I even said to Sergeant Lowe after the event, I said, I'll accept an apology. Arrange a meeting with your chief and the 3 officers. If they apologize in a correct way, I will gladly talk to them as an elder person, and I will accept their apology. I never heard back from them. There's no willingness to deal with these matters. And this is why I think it's a systemic issue. It's not even just a management issue. There's an evil germ that has grown, not only in this Metro Police, but in Metro Polices generally. In Johannesburg, we have terrible cases of abuse. And this, I think it calls for a reflection. Why do these Metro Polices exist? How did they come about? It's in 1998 that an amendment to the South African Police Services Act allowed metropolitan areas to apply to the provincial government to be allowed to establish a metro police. And that permission can be given under certain circumstances, like permission can be given to close a residential area. And in the same matter, that permission can be reviewed or can be withdrawn. And from what I know, from what I hear from the foreign diplomats in Tshwane, I think the point has come where the permission for Tshwane or for Pretoria, the larger area, to run a metro police should be withdrawn. The Tshwane Metro Police is hugely overstaffed, is hugely over-equipped, has plenty of assets and new cars, is equipped with the latest model, most expensive firearms, Berettas that cost 26,000 rand a piece and that are regularly lost, meaning sold to criminals. All this equipment could benefit the SAPS, and we would see a decline in crime levels if the SAPS had the benefit of being able to put all that equipment, all that funding to a better use. This Metro Police of Tshwane is basically become a criminal organization, and this is the very serious matter that we've come to discuss. Of course, that's my view, and others may not share it, but I had gotten over the humiliation, the trauma, the fear, and I was beginning in March, I was beginning to sleep well without waking up at night. The mere fact that I have this appointment here today, yesterday night at 2 o'clock I woke up with a bang and I was reliving the fear, the thought that maybe they wouldn't take me to the Littleton police station but take me to some lonely place and beat the life out of me because they decided that they wanted to hate me. These are young officers. In their eyes, in my whole experience, including in many, many countries in Africa, I've actually never been the target of so much racist hatred. The hatred in the eyes of this Mr. Tshwane was immense, and I thought he was out of control. So that must not be allowed to carry on. This is why I think I feel very indebted to AfriForum and the team here, Ian and many others, and of course Advocate Nell, who is probably the finest prosecutor brain that we have in South Africa, that this team is taking on this problem. So I'm sorry it got a bit serious. I'm well again, and as I said before, I'm very, very fortunate that in my case it didn't escalate to the point that it escalated with Kemi du Toit.